Next, a little brief bit about active remote sensing. And this can include active remote sensing is not collecting data of reflected sunlight. It is instruments that are beaming out their own data and then listening to it come back. There's three general types of active remote sensing. There's radar, which uses very long wavelength radio waves. Sonar, which uses sound for measuring underneath water. And then also LiDAR, that we might be more familiar with, which stands for light detection and ranging, which uses laser light that's beamed into an environment and records the pulses of light coming back. And this is really becoming increasingly popular. It can create very detailed three-dimensional views of places, including including places that have vegetation. One thing that LiDAR can do is they can measure the vegetation itself and then what is underneath the vegetation. So it creates a three-dimensional point cloud. So the instrument is beaming light down. It's getting hits off both the vegetation and also the ground below it. So a pulse, so if a helicopter is collecting it, it could be a helicopter, an airplane, could be a drone, sends out a pulse of laser light, and it's going to be getting information back both from the canopy and the ground below it. Some of the light will penetrate all the way to the ground and reflect back, and then some of it will be reflected back from the canopy itself. And so here timing is important. And there's the concept of first return. So as it beams down the laser light, it's going to get stuff reflected back. The first thing it's going to get back is whatever's on top, whatever the light hits first. So that's the top of the canopy or the vegetation where present. And then the last return is going to be the ground level, in theory, that whatever is the last thing to come back to you is the thing that is furthest away, which in theory should be the ground level. And then you're going to have other intermediate returns between the first and the last. And that's going to be the in-canopy vegetation. So as the aircraft or whatever is using the LiDAR, it's going to send out a pulse, and then it's going to get returns of information coming back. And so here's kind of a view of what a profile view of a point cloud. So here you get some pulses come back through trees, some hit buildings like the roofs of houses, and then finally the ground level. And this has become increasingly popular in fields like archaeology, where you may have vegetated environment, but you want to look at what is underneath the vegetation. So it has the ability, using the first and last returns, has the ability to look at whatever gets the top cover is, but also the ability to strip away that top cover and look at what is underneath it. Now, radar can work in a similar way, and this is from a mission called the Shuttle Radar Topography Mission, SRTM, which was actually, when I took remote sensing in the early 90s, this was a big deal. This is where they use radar. Radar can be used over a very large area to get not as precise as LiDAR, but it can get over a large area, it can get pretty good elevation information. Has some advantages that it works at night. It can penetrate clouds. And in the early 90s, this kind of insane mission where they took a space shuttle and turned it into this giant radar apparatus and flew around the Earth for days and collected detailed elevation data over much of the Earth. And I'll include a video that kind of shows some of that too as well.